the work you've committed your life to, what good do you hope that it's doing for everyday people in their day-to-day lives?
Right now, unfortunately, people are not well. They're not where they want to be. By age 30 or so, people feel like their life is starting to slip away. They're gaining weight they don't want to have. Their cholesterol is going up. They're on medications that they know they're never going to get off of. Okay. And perhaps worst of all, they tend to hand this same fate to the next generation. And that's something that not only has to stop, but it can stop.
Absolutely, Neal. I agree.
The body can heal.
Yes.
We know how to do it.
Yes, some of us.
The job is to put it to work.
Absolutely.
When you look back over, 50, 100 years, what are the key sort of health outcomes that have really changed? And how does that correlate to the way that the world has changed and our sort of consumption habits have changed?
Economics has changed everything. If you look, say, at rural Japan, 1950s, the country had a diet that was not entirely plant-based, but it was a rice-based diet, lots of vegetables, no ice cream. This was not the Velveeta culture. And some meat, but not really very much. And then suddenly the Golden Arches arrived in Tokyo.
The Golden Arches.
McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, the country westernized, breast cancer doubled.
Really?
Diabetes went way, way up. Waistlines expanded. Life expectancy went from longest in the world, it's still better than many other places, but it has declined and declined and declined, despite having more knowledge than ever before. The westernization of the diet has been a killer worldwide. You see it in Japan. You see it now in China. As economics are changing in China, there's more wealth, there is more cardiovascular disease. And you know who's on the wires outside of town looking down like buzzards? It's the pharmaceutical industry. Because if you eat more pork and your cholesterol goes up, I can sell you more statins.
Yep.
And that's the world we live in. That can change.
Why do you care? Of all the things you could have committed your life to, was there a catalyst moment where suddenly this became your mission? Was there something you saw, something you did, or an experience you had?
The year before I went to medical school, I was working in a hospital in Minneapolis, and I didn't have a very glamorous job. I was the morgue attendant. And so my job was to take the body out of the cooler and put it on a table and assist the pathologist to do an autopsy to determine the cause of death. One day there was a man who died in the hospital of a massive heart attack, probably from eating hospital food, but that's another story. And the body was there, and the pathologist took out his scalpel, and you make a Y-shaped cut across the skin like this. You peel back the skin, and then he took what looked like a garden clipper and went crunch, crunch, crunch through the ribs on this side and crunch, crunch, crunch through this side, pulled the ribs off the chest and put the ribs on the table. So he took his scalpel and he sliced through a coronary artery. And it was like a medical lecture. They're called coronary arteries because they crown the heart. And as he sliced it open, he said, "Feel that." I had gloves on. So I felt inside the artery. And you would think a coronary artery would be a rubbery tube that would carry blood to your heart. It was like a pipe stem. It was like concrete. It was hard.
Right. So
and he said, "That's calcified
Neal,
atherosclerotic lesions. And this is your bacon and eggs, Neal." And what he meant was cholesterol in the diet causes an irritation of that artery wall, and it forms what's kind of like a blister in the artery, and it calcifies over time. And what was most worrisome was not that this had attacked the heart, but we then looked at the carotids. Those are the arteries going to the brain. They had the same process, meaning if he hadn't died of a heart attack, he was headed for a stroke. And the arteries to the kidneys had the same process. He finished the exam, wrote up his findings, systemic atherosclerosis. And as time went on, I then went to medical school and I started to learn about the connections. What does cholesterol do? Where is cholesterol found? It's only in animal products. And I started to reflect on these things that were culturally normal for us. And we thought that heart attacks were culturally normal. You're old, 60s old, you're gonna have a heart attack. This is just the way it is. Alzheimer's, you're likely to get all these diseases. And I've suddenly realized that if we can truly connect what we are eating with the things that happen to our body, it gives us the most frightening lesson ever, but the most empowering lesson, because we can change that. My mission is to take that knowledge, hand it to people in a form that they can use, and encourage them to spread the word in turn, hopefully to the next generation. Not all we're spreading to the next generation is our own bad habits.
We're going to go through all of that. We're going to go through the diets. You've got a new book out which talks about the perfect sort of diet for weight loss, and it says the breakthrough plan that traps, tames, and burns calories for easy and permanent weight loss. So we're going to go through that as well. From that moment in the morgue until you sit here now, what is your sort of academic and your experience with doing studies and being exposed to research and data? What is that? Give me an overview of what you've done.
It really started with, I was approached by a foundation that funded diabetes research. We ended up executing a small study where we used a very different diet from what had been used. It was more modeled after the diet of countries that don't have much diabetes, like Japan before Westernization, for example. Very successful. We found that people were losing weight easily without counting calories, without reducing carbs, without even exercising, much as I love exercise. Then we did another study on people who wanted to lose weight. The participants were women, all at the age of menopause and after. They had all done Jenny Craig and Nutrisystem and Atkins and South Beach and everything. And they all had initial success, followed by frustration, followed by blaming myself, that kind of thing. And what we said is, let's not do that. Let's use the same kind of diet we're using for diabetes, which in a nutshell, plant-based diet, animal products gone, keeping oils really low, but not limiting spaghetti or carbohydrates in general, not limiting calories. And what we found is that people lost weight really easily, but more than that, their metabolism started to ramp up. So they're 50 years old or 60 years old, but they're burning calories more like they were burning when they were 30.
When people think about weight loss at the moment, you used the word calories. There's a prevalent school of thought that says you just need to count the calories you're having. For men, it's about 2,000 calories if you're sort of my age and my weight. And as long as you have less than that, you'll lose weight. That's kind of the top line school of thought. How do you receive that?
It's true. That we're not going to reinvent the laws of thermodynamics. I mean, if you take in fewer calories, you lose weight. The problem is if you voluntarily try to eat less than that your body normally wants, by Wednesday, you're ready to eat the sofa. It's just not going to work for you. I have to tell you, in every hospital, not only in the United States, but everywhere else, people will sit down with somebody who wants to lose weight or who wants to tackle their diabetes, and they'll say, you just need to eat less. Here's a menu. It adds up to 500 calories less than before. You stick to this and you lose weight. Well, the patient can't do that. You just can't be hungry forever. Your brain says, you can't be doing this. I'm starving. And everybody's had that experience. And so then what happens? You blame the patient. The patient blames himself or herself. And I say, stop. How can I, without knowing it, reduce the calories that come in? And the answer is really simple. The answer is change the quality of the food, not the amount.
Okay.
Stop worrying about the amount. If for 21 days, a person did an experiment with me, and I said, for 21 days, no animal products at all. Okay, so I'm at an Italian restaurant, spaghetti not with meat sauce, but with tomato sauce. Bean burrito instead of the meat burrito. You're not limiting the amount of food. You are just changing the type. Suddenly the weight kicks in, the weight loss kicks in. People start losing weight and losing weight and losing weight. Why? Because once you ban animal foods, which have zero fiber, pork chops don't have fiber.
We know that.
Cheese has no fiber.
We know that.
Have no fiber.
You get it.
Then suddenly everything you're eating has fiber. Does that matter? Fiber is this boring word, puts everybody to sleep. But fiber is big stuff because fiber does two things. It has
More than two.
has almost no calories. So it fills you up and it makes you think you had a huge amount of food. The other thing it does is as it goes down your digestive tract, researchers at Tufts University tracked what happens. 2017 study. They brought in individuals and put them on a diet either with high fiber foods, whole grain bread. Compare it to just white bread. It's the same thing, but one has all the fiber, one doesn't. And what they discovered is that the people on the whole grain bread They were excreting calories. What happens is the fiber goes down your digestive tract. It finds unabsorbed calories and it carries.
Insanity.
It's not huge. The effect of just that change was about 100 calories per day. That's about a half a soda you're not having. But that's 36,000 calories a year from just that one change. So if we aren't eating animal products, everything we have is fiber, that tames the appetite, you're going to lose weight naturally. What we find is that if I can help people to focus on the type of food they eat and learn to love foods that are better than the spam we grew up with, what you're going to discover is that not only do you solve the weight issue, people can lose weight very rapidly and very easily without going hungry and even without exercise, much as I love exercise. But also their health problems get better.
Just to pause there a second, because there's something going on in my sort of dietary world at the moment that I want to get your opinion on. You mentioned whole grain bread versus white bread. There's now all of these breads on the shelf. When I go to the hotels and you have the little breakfast bars, there's the sourdough, there's the rye, there's the white bread, there's the whole grain bread. And I'm so confused by which bread I should be having.
No.
I'm pretty sure not the white one, but I don't really know about these others. So which bread is highest in fiber and best for my health?
Well, they all beat the heck out of chicken, fish, meat, eggs.
How do you know?
Bread is always better. Yes, it is.
Then chicken.
Completely.
Chicken breast.
Take the skin off it, it's still 23% fat as a percentage of calories. Yes.
And why is that a problem?
Good question.
I eat a lot of chicken breast, you know.
Well, every fat gram has 9 calories going right into body fat that we didn't want. Every carbohydrate gram has only 4. So those numbers, I want people to tattoo those numbers on their forearm, because all the people who think carbs make them fat, they should realize carbohydrate, no matter what form it's in, bread, potatoes, pure sugar, carbohydrate has only 4 calories in a gram. But on the other hand, if I have fat, any form, chicken fat, fish fat, olive oil straight from Tuscany, it's got 9 calories in every gram. And a person can say, well, it's got to be good fat, isn't it? Sometimes it may be like olive oil, but it's still going to be fattening for you. We did a study. We brought in 62 people. They all wanted to lose weight. Half of them went on a low-fat vegan diet. They lost weight really very easily. The other half began a Mediterranean diet, which they thought, great, this is indulgent. I'll be able to have fish and some chicken and a little bit of cheese here and there and some extra virgin olive oil. How wonderful. And the foods are wonderful, except that by about week 3, the participants were saying, well, when does the weight loss start? The fact is, it doesn't happen with a Mediterranean diet, because the fish fat, the chicken fat, the whatever beef fat there may be, and all that olive oil is so packed with calories, it slows down or stops the weight loss. After 16 weeks, everybody stopped. They switched to the opposite diet. People who had been going Mediterranean now did the plant-based diet, and they start losing weight like crazy. And they said, well, why didn't you give me this before? The people who had been doing the vegan diet, by 16 weeks, they were totally accommodated to it. I know how to eat at Taco Bell now. I know how to ask for the bean burrito and whatever. We asked them to begin the Mediterranean diet. And they
What is that?
said, well, first of all, I don't want to. I've lost my taste for cheese. I don't care about that anymore. We said, this is science. Please do begin the diet. And they got angry. We met with everybody every week, and they were about to walk out because the scale was getting worse week by week by week, because we'd reintroduced chicken and fish and oil and all these kinds of things. This was published in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition, and it just won an award for the best article of the year by the American Nutrition Association. The point being that if you focus not on how much you eat, but if you focus on the types of foods you eat, you get the answer.
Correct.
Which is you can satisfy the appetite without counting calories.
Yes.
You don't have to blame yourself.
Yep.
There will still be all kinds of things.
Unless you do the wrong thing.
Things will attract you. There will be cravings and so forth, but we can deal with all of that.
Obviously, when people talk about the vegan diet, there's lots of popular rebuttals. One of them is about supplementation, about protein levels, about vitamin B12, about omega-3. You know these rebuttals because they're very popular. So how do you take on the idea that, if I'm not eating chicken